Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you with us for Marine Week 2022. We're very excited to kick off the series today with our speaker this afternoon, Jacques Nel, who's joining us and representing the Hout Bay Seal Rescue Centre. So we're going to be hearing from him about seals today. I'm going to hand over to Jacques now whenever you're ready to take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacques and I represent the Hout Bay Seal Rescue Station. Today we're going to discuss seals. First of all, what are seals? Seals is warm-blooded animals, marine animals. And we call the babies or the little ones pups. So there's a close connection, or it looks like they are marine. They're also called the dogs of the ocean. Seals are aquatic mammals. Now, they belong to the Pinnipedia family, and Pinnipedia means winged feet, and in easy terms, seal flippers. Now, in the world, you get around about 32 different species of seals. This can stretch from the South Pole right up to the North Pole and different countries. Your harbor seal is the most common seal. We do not in South Africa have the harbor seal though. What we do find is that we get some subarctic seals that comes and visit our coast every once in a while, which then would be your elephant seal and your bearded seal and your leopard seal. The types of seals that we get, as we've mentioned, the bearded seal, the leopard seal, and of course the elephant seal. The California sea lion we do not get around our coast whatsoever, and of course the walrus. The seal that we find most around our coast, which is endemic to South Africa, is the Cape fur seal. Now, the Cape fur seal likes a bit of a cooler water, so the possibility of finding them on the east coast towards Durban side is non-existing. You will find the Cape fur seal in smaller numbers from Algoa Bay, close to Port Elizabeth, and then right up into Southwest Africa, Namibia. With your biggest colonies you will find around the west coast of South Africa. Now, slides you'll see that you get basically two different kinds of seals. And the major difference between the two is that some seals doesn't have an ear flap and other seals does. And the ones that doesn't have an ear flap doesn't mean they can't hear. They just got a little hole on the side of the head. But it doesn't make them less a seal than, for instance, your sea lion. They're all seals in the end of the day. Even though your walrus, your sea lions, your elephant seals, they are all part of a family under seals. So you will find that your elephant seal, for instance, doesn't have an ear flap. Your walrus doesn't have an ear flap, and then your sea lions does have an ear flap. And the same with other seals like your harbor seal and your Cape fur seal. All right, on the ecology and biology of seals, I've already mentioned and the areas where we find them. Seals are what we call family animals. They gather around, especially during the breeding season. You will see on this picture, mostly your big males will sit on top of an outcrop, a rocky outcrop. And then the females will sit underneath or below them. And then the newborn pups, the yearlings and the newborn pups, is closer down the rock to the water. Now, your pups, after being born, they can't swim. They do not have enough blubber to keep them afloat either. So unfortunately, a lot of these pups will drown when they fall off these rocks. It's about 4 months after being fed, if they get the right nutrition. It also depends on what the parents can find to eat in the ocean. If they get the right nutrition, they can start floating and swimming after about 4 months old. Your diet for seals, they are incredibly inquisitive animals. They like playing. They are literally like your best friend, like a dog. They love playing, and they love just finding things, playing with things. And the same with the seals in the ocean. They will scratch, they will dive they can dive up to 800 meters deep, but they will find interesting things. They are never bored. They find things to do. So, and this is what makes them opportunistic when it comes to feeding. They will, if their favorite food, we'll get to that in a second, is rare to find, then they would go for birds. They will take birds out of the water that's floating in the water or sitting in the water. There on this picture, you can see octopus and, of course, fish. But they will also eat mussels and crayfish. Their main source of food is anchovies. Anchovy is very, very high in protein and nutrients that's necessary for the seals. Because they need to build their blubber. Their blubber, that is the fatty part under the skin. Now, this helps them to float. It keeps them warm, but it also keeps them cool when it's very hot in summer as well. It also helps them with being agile in the water and able to swim. So for our next slide, we talk about the predators. The predators to seals is not only animals, first of all, but on this picture, you will see it's your white shark especially. You also get your bullnose shark that like seals, and of course the orca. Your biggest predators in the oceans are these three. Breeding season for seals in around our coast, in the west coast, runs from about late October into February. And that also, again, is on the weather and the climate. Your seal reproduction, you will find that once mating starts, the bulls will fight with one another because they don't only have one female or one female, they want all the females. So, of course, the strongest bull is going to win. Although they do live in harmony with one another, it's usually only over breeding season where there's a bit of a scuffle. We've mentioned the pups. First of all, a mother can carry a pup for quite some time. Now, this changes because she will only have her pup once the weather conditions is perfect and that there's enough food. She can hang on to a pup before birth or before giving birth if the conditions are not right, which is absolutely amazing. Once the pups are born, they need their mother. They can't be on their own whatsoever because they are extremely tiny and fragile. The mother will stay after birth with the pup for at least 5 days. She will not move or leave the pup at all. So in that 5 days with very high nutritional milk, she will feed her pup. This milk will then strengthen the pup to be able to survive for a couple of days without being fed again. And this is where anchovy fish comes in to give that nutrition in the milk. The mother would then go back out to sea because she also needs to eat, and she can stay away 3, 4, 5 days before she comes back. But the first feed over the first 5 days is what sustains the baby until she comes back. Now, like I said before, they can't swim for at least the first 4 months of their lives. After a couple of weeks, about 4 or 5 weeks, the babies would start moving around. They're a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, and by then they already know when there's danger and they know where to go and hide or find a hiding spot to get away from even people and dogs, especially that we walk on the beaches. This is all danger to them. Why are seals important? Seals, first of all, we've spoken about the sharks and the predators. They play part in a system and also the feeding system. They're part of the food source for other animals, first of all. But because of the high nutrition that seals need to survive, they basically play a massive role in plant protection and also delivering nutrients to the water, which is important for plant life. So one will find usually where you do find seals, and especially your Cape fur seal, along our coast, you'll find a lot of kelp forest and a lot of seaweed and plants like that because of all the nutrients that they get from the seals. There's a lot of threats against seals, and a lot of that is human-made or by human hand, unfortunately. And because of pollution and plastics and old net that's just been dropped into the ocean or blows into the ocean, a lot of these seals, like birds as well, or marine life, gets entangled in these plastics. Now, there's other threats as well. Overfishing is a huge problem. Overfishing is a huge problem because this is food for the seals. And then, of course, there's fishermen. We must understand you get fishermen that like seals and you get fishermen that doesn't like seals. Now, most importantly, how can we help seals? First of all, I'm going to say that it's not only helping seals, but it's in helping the whole environment. And for us to become environmentally aware of all the dangers that we can cause by human hand to the environment, in the end of the day, will help our seals as well. Specifically when it comes to any form of animal or bird, is when you find an injured animal, go to your parents and ask them to phone the relevant authority, SPCA, people, or sanctuary, so that they can come and help this animal. Do not go up to seals. Keep a distance of 20 meters away from seals. They are dangerous animals. They are not pets and they are not tamed. They are wild animals. A seal bite can be really, really, really scary and very, very hurtful. I still have a few scars on my arms from trying to help them. They also stress very easily, and stress can be the biggest and first killer to seals if they are not handled in a proper manner or by someone that knows what they're doing. So the best thing is when you get a seal is not to jump up and get all excited and start taking selfies. As stay 20 meters, a minimum of 20 meters away from them. Give them their space. These are wild animals. So number one, you're going to phone somebody. You're going to phone your parents. You're going to see your parents. Tell your parents it's an injured seal or there's an injured animal on the beach. They must please phone for help. Now, we've spoken about plastics. How can you help seals? How can you help the environment? Is to, wherever you go, if it's on the beaches or if it's on the roads or if you go for a hike in the mountains, is to pick up plastics, because plastics can blow far and wide. They don't just disintegrate overnight. And this can end up into our oceans, which is dreadful for any species. Right, the Hout Bay Seal Rescue Center. This is a center that was founded to help seals in need. A lot of these seals, through entanglement, get hurt and they need medical help. A lot of these seals are bitten by dogs on the beaches because the dogs were not put on leashes. And a lot of the seals was injured either by people or if they walked into a road by a car accident or something like that. So all these seals would then come to the Hout Bay Rescue Station, where they are looked after until they're strong enough and healed up so that they can go back. The staff at the Hout Bay Seal Rescue Station, they work 24 hours. If there's any problem, they have to tackle it. So they also live at the station to make sure that there's the seals are monitored 24 hours. And if anything goes wrong, we have a vet on call as well for 24 hours. It's a huge operation. And it's a very expensive operation, because we have to buy on fish and we have to buy milk products. And of course, we have heat lamps and the seals going through the different stages, especially your little pups, right? Because they still can't swim, but they need to know that they've got to spend some time in the water when they're fully grown. So what we do is, once they started to be weaned off and start to get more solids, more pieces of fish in to their food, then we put the fish into the water, so that they can start eating out of the water as they would when they hunt in the natural environment, to the extent where they start getting live fish in these ponds where they actually have to hunt for these fish. This is all how we work in rehabilitation to prepare them to go back to the wild, because we are now the new parents that's going to look after them. Going through all of this, looking at our whole environment, you guys are tomorrow's protectors of our environment. And the reason that you and us, we have to protect our environment now, even more so than before, because of all the changes in the world, is to make sure that when you've grown up, your children will be able to experience and see this marvel in nature, to see seals, to see birds, to see plants. It is very, very important. And you are the next ambassadors. You are the next protectors of our environment. And you, from a young age, can make a huge difference.
So the first question we have is, do seals have hair?
Do seals have hair?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Okay. Is that because they're mammals?
Yes, they're mammals, so they do have hair.
Okay. Even the ones that look quite sleek, like the California seal?
Yes, no, absolutely. All seals have hair, and from birth already, they're born with hair.
Okay. And how many babies or pups can a seal have at one time or throughout her life?
Female can only have one. How many throughout her life is a very difficult question to answer because it depends. It depends on the climate. It depends on how long they live. But normally she will have one pup a year if the conditions are right.
Okay, I see. And obviously that would depend sort of obviously how long the female lives and as you said, the conditions. It's very, very interesting that they can sort of hold off on giving birth to the pup until the conditions are ideal enough.
They can hold on for about 3 months before they give birth, even if the pup is ready to be born. So she can hold off the pregnancy until such time weather conditions are perfect. Climate, weather, temperature, food source, all those kind of things plays a huge role.
That's incredible. And how long would a female be pregnant for?
You can look at anything between, sure, again, it depends, you know, but you can look at anything up to about 8 months.
Okay. So holding off for 3 months is quite a significant period.
That's a significant period, yeah.
Okay. And I know this would also vary quite a bit, but can you comment at all about how long seals would live for? How old do they get?
Again, it all depends on situation where they're at, pollution, all the dangers out there for them. There has been recordings of 28 years, 30, 40 years, and some of them older, but then they were in a protective area, aquarium or something like that.
Okay. And when seals dive and they swim, how deep do they go? And does it depend on the different species?
It depends on the different species. It also depends again on the food source and how deep they have to go to find food. Normally they won't go much deeper than about 200 meters, but they can go much deeper than that. You know, on average about 400 meters. That is not a problem for them. There has been deeper, has been recorded, but it's very rare that a seal would just dive down that depth unless there is something specific that they are looking to eat.
Okay. And so it would specifically be for food that they would dive to those kinds of depths?
That's correct. It also depends, you know, obviously it depends on the blubber. The blubber is the fat under the skin. Now that is their insulation as well. It helps them to swim, it helps them to balance, but it also keeps you know, keeps them warm in the colder waters. And the deeper you dive, the colder it's going to get. So it depends on feeding that here and the conditions, natural conditions in the surrounding habitat or wherever they are, because they do move around. So it all depends on that. That will also either limit them to the depth that they can dive or help them to dive even deeper.
Okay. And obviously, sort of, as we mentioned, that seals are mammals and will therefore breathe air. But how long can they hold their breath for when they go underwater? And are they able to sleep underwater?
No, they don't sleep underwater like the whales do. You know, they have to come up for air. So, you know, you're not going to have a 3-hour session of a seal underwater. So Exactly how long they can hold their breath, I can't tell you that. I'm not 100% sure. But you probably look at about 15 minutes odd, that they can do that quite happily.
Okay. So, okay, that's very interesting. And so that'll usually be, I'm assuming the 15 minutes will be if they're probably looking for food rather than if they're just simply playing.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And do you have a favorite seal from all your work at the Hout Bay Seal Society? Have there been any that have become your favorite, or any species that are particularly interesting?
Well, I think, I do a lot of work up in the west coast of South Africa, and we have been seeing a lot of your subarctic seals around, your bearded seal and also your leopard seal and elephant seal as well. I think the most interesting one is probably the elephant seal for me.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't move as well as your other seals. They kind of slop around the beach because of their size and weight.
Okay. Interesting. So they're not as mobile as the other kinds of seals.
Once in the water, probably yes. Yeah, but because of their size, I think they are very much restricted. They can't run on all fours, on all four flippers, or the tail and their flippers, like your other seals does. The whole body of the seal is literally lying flat on the ground. They can't lift themselves off because of the weight. So they kind of, well, I'm going to say it looks like a worm, just a very large fat worm that kind of walked over the beach,
Okay.
with the back going up, and they do this ripple effect.
Okay. And is that what makes them quite interesting for you?
Yeah, not just that, but also the molting, I mean, they can take up to 3 months to mold. Again, it depends on the conditions. There's no specific, this is how it is. It depends from area to area as well. And once again, about food source. I think the most interesting thing for me is about them, especially because they come from the subarctic, they don't know people. So they're very gentle souls, it won't just attack you or bite you or anything like that. Very inquisitive as well. So they'll lie on the beach, they'll even try and kind of blubber up to you and lie there and watch your every move kind of thing, because they're inquisitive. And this is also the sad thing why their lives are in danger, because we know people like going up, taking selfies, and you get some nasty people as well that want to hurt them. And this will put their lives in danger because they can't just run away.
Okay, that's very troubling and very sad for a species that's so interested in people, so less afraid of people and so sort of inquisitive. They really, yeah. I see it is 2:45, so not to keep everyone from their afternoons too much longer. I think we'll close off here for today. But if anyone does have any questions after today's session, or if anyone has any questions watching the recording on YouTube, you're welcome to email us at webinars@sscafrica.org.za, and we can pass those along to Jacques. For now, I think we can close off here and say thank you everyone for joining us today. And Jacques, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I know you've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, so we really appreciate the time that you've taken to share that with us. It's really appreciated, and we do have a few more sessions coming up for Marine Week. So for all those joining us, if you haven't already registered for the follow-up sessions, there's one tomorrow afternoon, and then there are 2 happening next week. So you can find the links to register on the Sustainable Seas Trust events page. We hope to see you there. We're going to close things off here for the day. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Jacques. I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. You guys too.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.